isn't there something that's positive and negative in every single one of us?
Absolutely.
So if that is the case, then what is it that pushes us to behave in a negative way?
It is easy to be negative
Why?
because it's a downhill thing. It's easy to go downhill in any sense of the term. Okay? And it's tempting because it gives you immediate pleasure, instant joy. So because of these two reasons, we easily take to negativity. To be positive, it's uphill. You need to put in effort and it's not a pleasure. He says, how do you get to the transcendental? Establish yourself in Sattva. And when you become 100% Sattvic, it is impossible for you to be a human or in this world. So you automatically get catapulted to the fourth plane of consciousness. So he's telling Arjuna and all of us, don't get stuck to the three gunas. Now comes the three gunas, which is India's and Vedanta's most valuable contribution to the world in terms of understanding of the human mind. So what they've done is,
Namaste and welcome to the 10th episode of our show on the Bhagavad Gita with Srimati Jaya Row. I am your host Ajay and also Jayaji's son. Jayaji, one of the things that we often talk about in Advaita or Vedantic philosophy is that life is a flow of experiences, and every experience consists of the object, which is the world, and the subject, which is us, the individual. But do we really know the subject in a spiritual sense? I mean,
yes, you're right. See, because life consists of a series of experiences, as you said, and every experience consists of two factors. So if you want to improve life, you need to improve the two factors that make life. Now, in modern times, what has happened is over the last maybe 2-3 centuries, the world has been improved tremendously. But as you said, we don't even know ourselves. And there is no investment whatsoever in managing ourselves or upgrading ourselves. No such thing. So it's like you have the best of food before you, but you have an upset stomach. The sight of the food is nauseating. And that is what is happening to people today. Particularly in the Western world, they have everything. Even the affluent here. But they're sick. They can't enjoy because there is something amiss inside, which needs a little adjustment, that's all. So, Vedanta, the Bhagavad Gita, is all about this. Now, once you develop a healthy appetite, even ordinary food is exciting. Similarly, you don't need to improve the world that much. If you have a healthy appetite for life, you can enjoy anything. But that capacity we've lost because there is no looking within. And that is the crucial part of life itself, to look within.
right. So when you say look within, what is it that we are comprised of in a Vedantic sense?
Okay, so let's look at ourselves and our normal interactions with the world. You stand before the mirror, you see your body.
Right.
But that's not all of you. Then you interact emotionally with people, and that's a very important aspect of our lives. And then we also observe that where there is emotion, there is no reason. But we are not just that. We're not just a bundle of emotions. We are capable of thinking, analyzing, deciphering things, deciding, being firm. And that is the intellect. So, as we go inward, there is less and less awareness. Many of us don't even know we have an intellect. And there is no development of the intellect or even emotions. And then beyond all this is the spirit. So that is something that's completely out of our range. But it's there. And it's a very it is the most important aspect of our personality. So when we say the Bhagavad Gita introduces us to ourselves, it is in fact based on one of the four aphorisms, which is Tat Tvam Asi, that you are. First 6 chapters talk about the world, next 6 chapters talk about Tvam, you, and the last 6 chapters talk about the relationship between the world and you on a broad level. But throughout the 18 chapters, it's all about yourself.
You know, there is something that is in us that always kind of tells you whether what you have done, said, or felt is positive or negative. And colloquially we call it the conscience, right? But how does this work? Let me take a step back. Whether it's a positive person or a person who behaves in a positive way or a person who behaves in a negative way, there's that voice inside of us that tells us, yes, what you did was okay, or it'll say, hang on, that's not cool. It'll say that it didn't come out quite right. So what is this, and why is it that we can't hear it more often?
That's a good question. See, the intellect consists of 2 segments, 2 aspects. One is called the gross intellect or Tikshna Buddhi. The other is called subtle intellect, which you refer to as conscience, or Sukshma Buddhi. Now, the 2 are completely separate. In other words, one can have a very sharp gross intellect, like a nuclear physicist, but a poor conscience, poorly developed conscience. Or you can have someone like Sant Tukaram, who had a highly developed subtle intellect, but gross intellect was not there. Or the Bhagavad Gita and Vedanta has one peculiarity in that it develops both your gross intellect and subtle intellect. So with that, what happens is, in the world, you're unbeatable. Because of your intellect, you're 10 steps ahead of everyone else. And the subtle intellect also is well developed. So you go to the state of realization or enlightenment. That is the best thing to have. So now, your question. See, we have the intellect, we're born with it. But it can be sharp or dull, both the gross intellect and subtle intellect. Now, you were asking about the subtle intellect, conscience. What prevents it from speaking up? Why is it that the voice of your conscience is silent sometimes? It's because of it's covered by desires and your selfishness. So let's say there's a businessman who wants to make money fast, as quickly as possible, and he doesn't care how he makes it. So he can ruin the environment, he can destroy people, he can cheat people, he can do what he likes. So his conscience is very poorly developed. So he doesn't hear that voice. Whereas there could be a person whose conscience is very well developed, and that's the first thing that comes to the foreground. He says, no, it's not right, I cannot do it, even in business. So in any field, your conscience can be sharp.
Isn't there something that's positive and negative in every single one of us?
Absolutely.
So if that is the case, then what is it that pushes us to behave in a negative way?
Yes. See, it is easy to be negative.
Why?
Because it's a downhill thing. It's easy to go downhill in any sense of the term. Okay? And it's tempting because it gives you immediate pleasure, instant joy. So because of these 2 reasons, we easily take to negativity. To be positive, it's uphill. You need to put in effort, and it's not a pleasure. So, like, to be a simple example, like to laze is so easy, but to exercise every day is difficult. To be disciplined is difficult. To just allow yourself to indulge is easy.
Yeah.
So similarly, to follow your intellect is difficult enough, but to follow your conscience is even more difficult. Because when you follow your conscience, in the immediate present, there is a loss.
For example?
Like business, I was talking, the example that we took.
Yeah.
He could have made profits and said, tough luck, everybody is killing, so, and I'm not killing.
Yeah.
So you can always justify a wrong. But if you honestly ask yourself, is it the right thing for me to do? Your conscience will always tell you the right thing. Because it is like the mariner's compass, which always points north.
Yeah.
So the conscience always points to the spiritual north. Even in a murderer, his conscience tells him he's done the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So that is our saving factor. And what the Bhagavad Gita and Vedanta does is that it sharpens your subtle intellect to such an extent that you have no choice but to follow the conscience. See, once your conscience is awakened,
It doesn't
you can't
become
go
a
back.
dilemma in a sense.
And you can't go back.
And wouldn't you say that the conscience along with the gross intellect help us develop a certain amount of clarity in thought and action,
Absolutely.
which is essential for success in the world? I mean material success. I'm not
Exactly.
talking about just spiritual growth.
So when you develop your gross intellect, you become successful in life because you gain this clarity.
Yeah.
Your intellect is sharp. So you're like few steps ahead of competition. You see the trends that are coming up and you plan your present in line with the future. And similarly in relationships, you're able to decipher the nature of the person that you're interacting with. And you adjust your speech or your behavior according to that person's nature, which is what is the right thing to do. But people who don't have an intellect don't even see, they're not aware. And so they say and do the wrong things and get into conflict with people.
Yeah.
And then once there is conflict, there's no solution. So it leads to breakup of relationships. So in every aspect of life, like how must you, there is that discipline which comes into your life. There is the consistency of purpose. There is a fixation of a goal. And your whole life changes when your intellect is developed. And alongside that, when your conscience is developed, you can never go wrong.
Yep. I think that leads us to a really beautiful verse that we're going to study today. So maybe shall we begin with the invocation now?
Sure. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
So now we're in chapter 2 and we're currently reading verse 45. And here Lord Krishna says, the Vedas explain the 3 gunas, traits. O Arjuna, free yourself of the 3 gunas and the pairs of opposites. Establish yourself in Sattva, purity, and remain in the self free from acquisitiveness and possessiveness. Could you take us through this, please?
This is a very, very inspiring verse because, see, the Vedas are the most sacred texts to Indians. And in this verse, he is giving the limitation of the Vedas. The Vedas talk about the 3 gunas only. 3 gunas means the world, matter. He says, how do you get to the transcendental? Establish yourself in Sattva. And when you become 100% Sattvic, it is impossible for you to be a human or in this world. So you automatically get catapulted to the 4th plane of consciousness. So he's telling Arjuna and all of us, don't get stuck to the three gunas. Now comes the three gunas, which is India's and Vedanta's most valuable contribution to the world in terms of understanding of the human mind. So what they've done is they've categorized, like you said, we all have positive and negative. So they've categorized human thought into three categories, A, B, C.
Okay.
So category A is Sattva, purity. That's the highest. Where you're free from desire and ego. And there is this distinct vision of the transcendental and you're working towards it. Then comes Rajas, where you're under the cloud of desires. And your entire life is driven by desire and ego. And then there is the mental agitation which comes from unfulfilled desire. But it results in a relentless pursuit of the object of desire. So there is this helpless activity. You can't break free from that. That is Rajas. So there is activity, there is work, but there is the accompanying stress and mental agitation and suffering. The third grade is C grade, which is Tamas, which is apathy, it's indifference. You take the I don't care a damn attitude. Where your desires are dormant, they've gone into the subconscious. And so the only pleasure you have is not even in fulfilling desires, is in just sloth. So now, all human beings are a combination of these three. Our business in life is to promote Sattva, refine Rajas, and declare war on Tamas. What we are doing in modern life is the exact opposite. Because whatever sattvic content you have surfaces in the mind between 4 and 6 a.m. Now, how many of us are even awake during that time? So that gets completely squashed. Rajas between sunrise and sunset, so we are active. And Tamas is after sundown. So even there is a term called sundowner. All bars open after sundown. All nefarious activities take place then. Now what we're doing is late nights, no morning, late waking up, and Rajas. So it's like having 3 gardens. One with exotic flowers, one the lawn, and the third is weeds. So what we're doing is watering the weeds, giving manure to the weeds, and completely neglecting the exotic thing. So how can there be any development of the human being under these circumstances?
Right.
Even children, school children, university students, stay up late at night studying or whatever they're doing.
Yeah. So now that we've understood the three gunas and we've understood that they are part of all of us, that's what makes us, these three gunas. How can we cultivate this sattvic element in each one of us?
That's a fabulous question. See, first of all, we must understand that whatever vasanas means gunas we have, they surface only when you provide a conducive environment. Like, if you were a musician, now you can't sing because the environment is not conducive. But when the environment is conducive, the best in you comes out, your music surfaces. Similarly, with sattva, we have to provide an environment that is conducive for your sattvic qualities to surface, which means wake up early, expose your mind to positivity, powerful positive thoughts. It could be in any form, reading the Bhagavad Gita, it could be watching a good film. And if you see, when you see an uplifting movie, it remains with you for so many days after that.
True.
The same is with negativity. But what sells, unfortunately, is negativity.
Why?
Because it immediately gets your adrenaline pumped up. It excites you. And human nature is like that. That's why breaking news is negative. I mean, you see people when they meet and they gossip, it's like music to the ears. But you say something positive, they'll say, don't give bhashan. So that's what it is. But if you understand how it works and you start the day with a powerful positive intake, then it stays with you throughout the day. And Rajas, you keep going, activity, you must be active in life. And try and minimize your waking hours after sundown. So modern research has also shown that the most successful people in the world wake up at 5:30.
That's what they call the 5 a.m. club.
Yes, correct. The other is that you have to fix an unselfish goal to be able to minimize your desires and your selfishness. And also you become more creative when you have a higher goal. Because your mind is at peace, calm, your thinking is sharp, and actions become brilliant. So you are successful. And this thought of the higher, that is the transcendental, when it is injected into your mind, it takes root, but you have to give it time to take root. And then you view things completely differently.
Yeah. Isn't it also important for us to manage our environment, or I would say design our environment in a way that helps us to cultivate the sattva and maintain it?
Absolutely.
It's not just about cultivating it, it also needs to be maintained, right? And I think, especially in modern life, with online streaming platforms, there's Netflix and Amazon Prime and all of that. There's all of these different platforms, and we have access to a huge plethora of media. So it's important for us, for our own spiritual growth, and I would say just to maintain a positive outlook in life, to really think about what it is that we're exposing our minds to, right? I mean, if we're exposing our minds to violence and bad language and all of that all the time, how will it ever be possible to cultivate sattva?
It won't be.
Right? So I'm talking about not just what we watch, but also the kind of music we listen to, the kind of things that we read. So the intake from all five senses, in a sense, we have to be mindful of that. And in fact, in the Kaivalya Upanishad, isn't that what they mention? Is that the correct Upanishad where they say Bhadram
That's the invocation.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
In which Upanishad is that?
It runs across several
across.
Upanishads.
Okay. But
So
but
it
I
says
think,
that, yes. May my ears listen to good sound.
Yes, yeah.
May my eyes see auspicious things. So that is called satsang at all levels.
Exactly.
So it's not just sensory.
Yeah.
At all levels, the receipt of stimuli must be positive. You must watch out for the reaction. Sometimes, even if the receipt is positive, your desires, your mind is so negative that you view everything negatively.
Yeah.
So you have to be aware and take steps to correct it. Nip it in the bud. And reactions. Are your actions selfish, unselfish? Where do they spring from? What attitude do you have? So first thing is awareness, and then trying to bathe yourself in positivity. And when that happens, your reaction to even extremely negative things is still positive. Like in that movie, Life is Beautiful.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah?
fantastic.
So where this man and his 4-year-old son are picked up and taken to a concentration camp on the child's birthday. So the child asked the father, I thought we were having a birthday party. So the father says, yes, this is your surprise birthday party. Concentration camp. And then he converts the whole thing into a game. And if you watch the movie, he includes all the other prisoners in this positivity. Even the guards join them. So this is the power of positivity.
Yeah.
Prahlada did that. He became the king of the Daityas. He converted all of them into positive. So, but we must have it in us. We must have the awareness, and we must make an attempt to cultivate it and weed out negativity. It's not necessary for you to be exposed to the seedy side of life. It's
Yeah.
there, yes.
And even the news, if you look at the news or read the newspapers on a regular basis, I mean, it's all about bad things that are happening, like shooting and violence and, sexual abuse. I mean, it's like, I mean, personally, I find it, it's, and the first thing you look at it in the morning, you read it, pick it up in the papers, the first thing you see in the morning, mm, do we really need that kind of energy?
Therefore, we have to begin with the study of the Bhagavad Gita,
Hmm.
early morning. So that when you have this shield of positivity, even when negative things come, you're able to ward them off. They bounce off you, they don't impact on you.
I think some really nice points that we've covered so far today. Would you like to, take us through like the key takeaways for today?
We began with an analysis of life itself.
Yeah.
Life consists of a series of experiences. And for you to have a better life, you have to look at both the world as well as yourself. Now, the world has been improved, you have been neglected, and therefore it is that we are unhappy or stressed out, even in a well developed world. Then we move to the positive and negative. Every one of us has both the positive and the negative.
Yep.
And which one you promote is where you'll go.
Yep.
Then we looked at the scriptural or the technical categorization of human thought into Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, A grade, B grade, C grade, and how you can promote Sattva within you. Because you can excel only out of your Sattvic content.
True.
So it's very important to develop Sattva.
So the three gardens that you spoke
Yes.
about. Yeah.
That Sattva is like the exotic flower garden, Rajas is like the lawn, and Tamas is like the weeds.
Yep.
Now what we're doing is we're feeding the weeds and starving the exotic flowers.
And I think one important point that we spoke about was the role of the conscience in our lives, or Sukshma Buddhi.
Yes, Sukshma Buddhi.
Yeah.
Very important. I missed that,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Conscience is our guide in life. And if you follow your conscience, you can't go wrong. Shakespeare said that. To thine own self be true, and it must follow as night the day, thou canst not then be false to any man. Very powerful and a poetic way of saying
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Great. So I think we can wrap up with our invocation.
Sure. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Okay, everyone, thank you so much for joining us again this week. We hope that you've benefited from this knowledge. As always, if you have any questions or any ideas, please feel free to leave them in the comments. And we'd be happy to take them up in maybe the next show or after that very soon. So have a great week ahead, and we'll see you very soon. Bye.